Welcome, everyone, to the Trust Issues podcast. I'm consumer investigator Dale Cardwell, where we're talking about post-COVID scams that manipulated the circumstances during the shutdown and are flourishing today. I cover a lot of these scams in my new book, Don't Get Scammed, Get Smart: 7 Steps to Outsmart Today's Most Dangerous Post-COVID Scams. We're talking about real stories, real people, and real losses, so you can learn the patterns and beat the con artists at their own game.
I was just sitting on a social media site, and he popped up on my pager and said, "You have a pretty face. Can we talk?" And he said, "I'm not everybody else. I'm a man of integrity." He said, "And all I want to do is talk."
But that was a lie, and it marked the beginning of a heartbreaking journey and financial ruin for one woman looking for love. Call it what you want: catfishing, sweetheart swindling, even pig butchering. The end game is the same: to con unsuspecting romantics out of cash, one sweet nothing at a time. We'll break down why romance scams work, how scammers pull them off, the tactics they rely on that play on your emotions, and the warning signs that can keep you and the people you care about safe. That's today on Trust Issues.
You're legally responsible for this. You cash the check.
Is that what you normally do with a customer? You curse at them and belittle them? You're here to solicit new business. You're here to get money from our people. How does it feel to be held accountable for this after you've taken all of this money?
You're not insured to remove trees.
We just want to talk.
This is Trust Issues with Dale Cardwell. Today, we're pulling back the curtain on one of the most heartbreaking and expensive scams out there: romance scams. These are crimes that don't just take money. They exploit trust, loneliness, and the hope for connection. In recent years, the losses tied to romance and dating scams have reached into the billions, and the harm goes far beyond dollars. On today's podcast, we'll look at the numbers, the trends driving the growth, how these scams operate, the red flags you should watch for, and practical steps to protect yourself and the people you love. Let's start with the scale of the problem. Romance scams are not rare or small. They're among the costliest types of online imposter fraud. Federal data show that reported losses from romance scams reached more than $1 billion in the recent full-year reporting, with median losses per person frequently in the thousands. The FTC's consumer complaint data show romance/imposter-style scams produce some of the highest median loss figures among impersonation frauds. And romance scams are part of a broader surge in internet-enabled fraud. The FBI's Internet Crime Complaint Center reported roughly $16.6 billion in losses to internet crime in 2024. That's a big jump over previous years. And romance fraud is one of the categories driving that increase. Those numbers can understate the harm. Victims often don't report. They're ashamed, they fear judgment, or they've been emotionally manipulated into silence. So the real human toll is almost certainly larger than the numbers suggest. For Donna, a compliment and a carefully crafted story was all it took to unlock her heart and her bank account.
I was just sitting on a social media site, and he popped up on my pager and said, "You have a pretty face. Can we talk?"
That marked the beginning of what Donna believed to be a chance at romance.
And he said, "I'm not everybody else. I'm a man of integrity." He said, "And all I want to do is talk."
Over the next 9 months, this man of so-called integrity instead spun a web of lies to get Donna to do what he wanted.
He made a point and kept saying that he had a son and that without a phone he couldn't contact his son. So I insisted on buying him a phone. I should have known then. You send a $300 phone and then you got to pay $600 to somebody to deliver it. this $1,500 phone is turning into $3,000.
But Steve was persuasive, sending pictures he claimed to be of himself and his son. But not once did they see each other, not even on video chat.
What he said was that he was on a rig in the Mediterranean and that he worked for Exxon.
Since Donna says she was able to verify his location by way of an online tracking software, she believed what he was saying. As he was telling her he loved her, he was actually grooming her to gain her trust and get more money.
Then he come up with the idea of me selling my house and sending him the money.
Donna sold her home and sent her online lover at least $80,000 and waited for him to arrive. But when he canceled his trip, Donna started to suspect something was wrong.
Something just told me, you've really got yourself in a mess now.
No kidding. Joining us now is our senior producer, Marnie Zambri. Hi, Marnie.
Hi.
Marnie has, for a long time, helped me expose scammers and recover funds for consumers. Marnie, tell us a little bit about Donna.
There's so much to say. So first, let me put it into context when we first met Donna. We met her basically on the eve of the shutdown, where they shut down the entire country and people were isolated to their homes. But by that point in time, she was already in it, knee deep.
She lived alone.
Yes. She was in her early 60s. She was a retiree. She had already, she had a nice nest egg, which I don't think that she flashed around or anything, but she was very active on social media sites.
And Marnie, she was lonely.
I think that's the number one thing that made her vulnerable. She had little dogs, and she doted on those little dogs, and they were all over her social media site. And I think that was one thing that really made her vulnerable. And that's the number one thing that they look for. They look for people that they can target that are vulnerable.
So let's break down the anatomy of a romance scam, because the more you understand the playbook, the harder it will be for criminals to fool you. Most romance scams follow 6 steps. Step 1?
Well, the first step is the approach. Often a scammer initiates contact on a dating app or a social platform. They are reaching out and they're responding to a post, and sometimes they're sending a direct message that they are being sympathetic, they're being flattering, or they're simply asking questions. We have something in common here.
Yeah, like puppies.
Exactly.
Step number 2, moving off the platform. Very quickly, they suggest moving to private channels, text, WhatsApp, email. That removes visibility from the original site and makes it harder for moderators to see red flags.
That's definitely a big red flag right there. And look, I've been in the dating world. You are on the app for a while. You're messaging back and forth. But eventually, you don't want to wait for the app to filter the messages for you. You do move off, and it seems like a safe thing to do, but really what it does is it isolates you, and it gives them time to cultivate a relationship with you. Quite honestly, one of the biggest things that happens is what they refer to as love bombing.
What's love bombing?
Well, let me tell you. It's basically coming in too hard, too fast. And lots of compliments, lots of attempts to create a false sense of an intimacy. And they'll compliment you. They will say, I can't believe that nobody else has snatched you up. Where have you been my whole life? It's a real manipulative way to get inside somebody's emotions and possibly their heart pretty fast.
Okay, so the good news is that there's some clear red flags in this process. Number 4, they're going to create a crisis. Once emotional trust sits in place, the scammer invents or fabricates an emergency. It's a medical need, Marnie, legal trouble, being stranded overseas, or a business problem that requires immediate funds.
And this guy had everything. He had a young son that he needed to buy a phone for so that he could communicate. That was step number 1. She just bought a phone so that he could communicate with his son.
Well, because he was stuck on an oil rig in Cyprus.
In Cyprus. But keep in mind, he was a millionaire. And all he needed was her help to access this bank account. And I'll tell you what, he was very tricky.
Yeah.
They really take a lot of time, because it's not just one person doing this. It's networks of people.
And Marnie, they have skills.
They really do.
It's a shame that they put their efforts toward this because they're really good at it. It's a shame.
Well, in one of the other things that you have to keep in mind, this is not just about vulnerable old maid women that are getting pulled in like that. It's older men, it's young men that, that perhaps weren't so popular in high school, and all of a sudden this cute girl on Snapchat is wanting to talk to them, and then a crisis happens. Her mother needs surgery. Yeah. Or, anything else.
Yeah, and so step number 5 is they ask for and they escalate the situation. They request payment through a bank transfer, wire, cryptocurrency, or gift cards. Payment methods, Marnie, that are hard to reverse.
Well, and also that are hard to track. And that is, it doesn't matter if you're talking romance scam, text scam, or rental scams. Any type of scam that asks for a payment via a gift card or via a wire transfer, they're all methods of giving money that can't be traced.
And if one request fails, they're going to invent another emergency.
Oh, it's one emergency after another until they get to the point where they feel like, in one of the words that you said that describes what these scams are called, butchering the pig. Once they've butchered the pig, and it's horrible. It's a horrible phrase.
Because then, step 6, they cut and disappear. Once the scammer has what they want, they vanish, or they keep the relationship alive to pull even more money until the victim recognizes the truth. In other cases, data gathered during the relationship is sold to other criminals.
Yeah, and then it just goes to show that one response to a message on social media could completely lead to financial ruin. Next, let's just kind of take a listen to what happened with Donna. First, I want to start, one of our main people that we go to, a reliable source for us, has always been the Better Business Bureau, because they fund investigations looking into scams like this. And one of the favorite people we always work with is, we work with Steve Baker. Let's take a listen.
These are people that believe in true love, and they think they found it. And they're willing to do most anything for the person they love. I've had victims who received a text message every morning when they woke up telling them how much this person loved them, which is really powerful stuff for somebody. So after a few months, people they fall in love. They're really convinced this is a real person.
And in Donna's case, the pictures her boyfriend sent to her were of a real person. They just weren't him.
Okay, guys, so this is what I want to do. I want to talk to you about money today, not sales.
This is Grant Cardone, an entrepreneur who's never met Donna. But on his website, he warns people to beware of scammers pretending to be him. For Donna, this warning came too late.
I cried like I've never cried before. And I couldn't tell anybody.
And let me talk about it. That is why it works. It's the shame factor. And it's kind of strange how I came to this story. I had a colleague that I was very close to and that I worked when I was in news. And she actually contacted me about Donna's situation. She must have met her through a network, because she had been scammed by a romance scam. Lost $200,000.
Oh my gosh, Marty.
Again, the shame around it was huge. And the only reason that she came forward was that she was using company computers to communicate with this guy. And because of that, the company that she worked for was afraid that there was some kind of compromise, that the guy was going to be able to hack the system. So she had to not only admit it to people around her, but to her employer and say, hey, look, I have been swindled out of $200,000.
Oh my gosh.
And again, it was all the same things. The person had a child. The person was overseas. The person was sick. All the excuses. And the bottom line was, she was just lonely.
Oh. So who falls for these scams? The short answer, anybody. But patterns do emerge. Older adults often suffer the largest losses in dollar terms and can be targeted because of social isolation or long-term savings. People experiencing life transitions, divorce, recent moves, job changes, they may be more vulnerable. Younger adults also get targeted, Marnie, sometimes through social apps or by scammers who exploit specific interests. Recent reporting shows younger age groups report losing money at notable rates as well.
And just recently, just this week, there was a report that came out from the Department of Justice, and they always do these reports that they present to Congress. And of course, one of the biggest things that they always look at is elder abuse and fraud. And like the number one fraud was romance fraud.
And here's why. Emotional attachment can suspend skepticism, and that's the con artist's power. So, Marnie, let's tell listeners the red flags to watch out for.
Well, we've kind of mentioned this before, but again, it's those rapid declarations of love or deep attachment to someone you just met. They tell you you're in love with you in days, so you've really got to be cautious.
Reluctance or refusal to meet in person or via live video. Scammers avoid in-person interaction and often invent plausible excuses for not meeting.
Of course, there's the folks that will want to move quickly off the dating platform or quickly off social media platforms to communicate with you. They want to get away from the folks that can filter out bad doings, and that's how they want to do it.
So you got to treat that with suspicion. And stories that create urgency or require money. I'm stuck overseas and I need a wire, right? Phrases like that are classic. Requests for money by way of transfer, wire transfer, cryptocurrency, or gift cards. Those methods are hard to reverse and a major red flag.
Another thing, and this is something when you're just dating, as we say in real life, their stories don't match up. They will say one thing and there's an inconsistency in their background, or there's an inconsistency of the pictures that are online. Their history changes or it's vague. And quite honestly, that's really suspicious.
Yeah, profiles with many polished photos but very few friends or social interactions, Marnie. Fake profiles can look too perfect.
And in this case with Donna, the picture she was receiving was of a real guy. He was like a entrepreneur who was all over the internet. And he even put on his website, and I think we mentioned it earlier, that he even put on his website, look, people are using my likeness and using my name to reel people into romance scams.
He was a good-looking guy.
He was a good-looking guy. I don't argue about that.
Slow realization. Repeated small asks over time. Many victims don't realize until months later that they've sent hundreds or even thousands of dollars to the con artist.
Yeah, because it's a slow drip. And quite honestly, if you're seeing any of these signs, you're flirting with disaster.
Yeah.
You are on the edge of getting in, not only emotionally, but financially. You are going to be broken.
Yeah, and it's a real sad circumstance when you engage with a victim that doesn't realize they're a victim, and you have to let them know they are, and you can see that the scales fall from their eyes.
Well, and even when we were with Donna, again, there was that little ounce of hope that maybe he was telling the truth.
Yeah.
That maybe this was all a big misunderstanding. But Donna eventually did report what had happened to her local police department, but quite honestly, it's unlikely they will ever be able to track him down, and it's like zero chance that she'll ever get any of her money back.
And let's be clear, Marnie, Donna believes this could happen to anybody. Let's take a listen.
Don't kid yourself. They know all the right things to say, all the right things to do, and convince you that, you're the world, and they're going to provide everything on a pedestal. When they think that you've spent your last dollar, they'll walk away. They will destroy your life.
If you take nothing else from today's episode, heed this advice. Don't send money to someone you meet online, period. Verify their identity with live video. If they refuse or make excuses, please be skeptical. Keep conversations on platform while possible. Dating apps often have safety tools and reporting functions. Ask a friend or family member for a second opinion. Isolation helps scammers. If you've sent money, contact your bank immediately. Quick action increases the chance of freezing transfers. Report the scam. File complaints with the FTC at reportfraud.ftc.gov and with the FBI's IC3. Reporting helps law enforcement map networks.
And finally, be really careful about what you share online. The more that you share, the pictures, the memories, the things that you love to do, all that stuff can be used against you to script a fake romance.
And they're cyclical. They get shared with other people, and it could be a year later, and all of a sudden, something you forgot putting online comes back to haunt you, and it starts all over again.
You want to talk about a bad romance?
Yeah.
That's a bad romance.
Yeah. So let's face it, everyone has some trust issues. We've all been burned. My mission is to help you identify, avoid, and outsmart today's most dangerous post-COVID scams. I do that in my book, Don't Get Scammed, Get Smart, 7 Steps to Outsmart Today's Most Dangerous Post-COVID Scams. Consider it your essential guide to navigating today's marketplace safely and successfully. And you can find my book on Amazon.
And if you're in the Atlanta area, you can go to TrustDALE.com. You can find the book there, but you will also find companies that Dale has handpicked and vetted for home services in your own home.
Remember, don't get scammed, get smart. I'm consumer investigator Dale Cardwell.
And I'm Marnie Zambri.
Thank you guys so much for listening. If you enjoyed this episode of Trust Issues, make sure to like, follow, and share the podcast so more people in our community can stay one step ahead of scammers. And don't forget to hit subscribe so you never miss an episode.